Hi, it's Llarold. Someone said my intros are too long, so this one will be short. It's over now, and in exchange, you must submit to the like and subscribe buttons. Do it now. Okay, let's talk about gold. You need a lot of it to fund King's March, and King's March is very rewarding. I have 3 teams of mappers running tier 16 maps, but not all doing Corrupted 8 mod tier 16s quite yet. Right now, my wages per hour are, if I look at Johan here, almost 60,000 per hour. And I think by upgrading those mappers, I could very easily push above 70k. If I fully upgraded everyone in the town to level 10, it'd probably be over 100,000. Now this is a huge expense, but in exchange, every day on Reddit, you see someone posting a mirror shard or a full mirror, and I really want to be pursuing that. And even in my case, with quote unquote bad luck, I think I made 12 or 13 divines yesterday, and it took several minutes worth of effort. So it is good, make no mistake, S tier league for real. Almost immediately into the league, the community figured out that rarity is super important for maximizing your gold from drops. I've already talked about some of my preferred methods for generating gold. The TLDR version is to kill lots of dudes, so strong boxes are great. And I've gone over a Reddit post that seemingly demonstrated that gold is made up of converted weapon and armor drops with higher rarity items, apparently providing more gold. This is all useful information for the here and now, but given that gold will be a core feature in PoE 2 as well, I think this is going to be useful for the future too. So right, we know that rarity equals more gold. Rarity is good. We also know that rarity has diminishing returns, and while there have been some general rules of thumb in the past about the points at which they really start to diminish, with the removal of player increased item quantity from the game entirely and the massive nerfs to quant and rarity from mechanics like Torment on the Atlas passive tree, we just simply don't know how things work right now. So I thought I would just do a little test to compare several different layers of player item rarity, ranging from 0 to 185% across 3 levels of maps. Those would be Scour and Go, Chisel and Alk, and then 8 mod maps with Scarabs. I also compared Meticulous Appraiser at the 185% increased item rarity mark just to see how that functions as well. Now as for rarity, it doesn't improve the quality of items. That is, it doesn't improve, say, a Belt of Deceiver into being a Mage Blood. It doesn't make Exalted Orbs turn into mirrors, but it does increase the rarity of drops, which means more belts that drop have a chance to be a unique, which could be a Mage Blood, as opposed to more of them being normal stuff that just gets filtered out by your loot filter. Now, I didn't get an enormous data set. I did a sample of 5 maps at each point, but this does mean 75 Dunes maps, including 25 of which were scoured. And that was very boring, and I do feel that I've learned several things from doing this whole experiment. If somebody wanted to do a larger version of this to draw out more reliable conclusions with 10 times or 100 times more data, I think that would be a cool idea for someone else to do. Very boring to actually do the scoured maps, I gotta say. No more for me. In terms of what I did in the maps, this is my Atlas passive tree. I have it pulled up here. It is a very normal, basic map farming strategy with quant rarity and map mod effect juicing the tree. I think I actually ran the red side of the tree, so instead of looking like this, it looked like this. Pretty much the same other than that, though. Exactly like this. Scarab farm, map drops, quant, rarity, and so on. I ran exclusively Dunes maps, as I said, using red altars. I boss rushed, I took player quant and rarity mods whenever I could from the Eldritch altars, and other than that, I just full cleared them out. So with all of this out of the way, let's take a look at that data. So I have 2 immediate takeaways from looking at this chart. We have our columns here: 0 item rarity, 75, 133, 185, and then 185 plus Meticulous Appraiser, and then the difference of each of these is relative to 0 item rarity. So right, the first takeaway I have here is that map item quantity and rarity is gargantuan in terms of increasing the amount of gold per map. We can look at Scour and Go maps across the board, this whole row of Scour and Go maps, and then we compare them to Chisel and Alk maps, and the amount of gold doubles. In some of these cases, it's closer to like 2.5 times as much gold, but it's a substantial amount of gold increase. And then the same is true going from Chisel and Alk to 8 mod with Scarabs. And just to show off those Scarabs, I think I still have them in the map device. It's these: Cartography Scarab of Escalation, since I'm doing 8 mod maps, 80% increased maps. Cartography Scarab of Corruption, so I can get some Corrupted 8 mod maps to continue farming other stuff, since I'm blowing them on this strategy. And then Cartography Scarab of the Multitude ×3, just to give more guys to drop more maps, so that then combines with everything else to give me a bunch of maps. Ta-da! The second thing that I noticed here is that there are diminishing returns on player increased item rarity, but they're not as steep as I had initially thought. In the 8 mod map range, 0% item rarity made about 20,000 gold per map, 75% made around 28,000 gold per map, I think slightly under, 133% made about 30k, and then 185 made over 33,000 gold per map. This holds up surprisingly well across ranges too. Like, each of these rows has a pretty similar steady increase as you increase in rarity. Each jump in the Chisel Out and Go row here, for example, represents an increase of about 2,000 gold per map to 2,300 gold per map. But that really held up. I was surprised. I expected it to be a much steeper decline in increased item rarity, having sort of a fall off, and I think that the number at which it really starts to diminish is significantly higher than 185 increased item rarity, and that is ultimately a lot of gear committed to item rarity. 185% increased item rarity, as I can demonstrate here, is a gold flask with Mage Blood, giving full uptime, using Enkindling Orb for 70% increased effect, using 30% increased rarity of items found as the crafted suffix. It's also a ring with I think this is tier 3 rarity prefix, which is not great, but then also a ring with a tier 1 prefix and a tier 1 suffix, which is very, very high. So that is 3 gear slot mods dedicated to rarity and a full flask completely dedicated to rarity, while also being pretty much doubled by being equipped with a Mage Blood. Now, I had some other gear setups here that I was using to kind of show all this off or test this all out. Had a flask that I put in with no rarity at all, one with just the rarity suffix, a couple of rings without any rarity. Now, something else that I found extremely fascinating, and I'm willing to chalk this up to just the small sample size of only doing 5 maps in each block, but it did catch my eye. And that was the difference in tier 17 map drops in the different rarity tiers. I only tracked the tier 17 map drops in the 8 mod with Scarab setup. I know I had some in the Scour and the Chisel section, and just to kind of show off the amount of tier 17 maps that I had drop during this. All of these ones on the right-hand side I already had on hand, but in the span of 75 maps, I got 35 Fortress maps doing this strategy, which is pretty surprising to me. I did not expect to get that many maps, considering, you know, I did do some like high-level map farming, I guess, with 8 mods and Scarabs and so on, but only 20 of these 75 maps were like doing that, and then the other, whatever, all the rest of them that dropped tier 17s anyway were either like just Chisel and Alk with no Scarabs at all, or Scour and Go. Ugh, very boring. Now, to be clear, I don't think that rarity increases the map drop chance of tier 17s. I think it's just a coincidence, but it is definitely an interesting coincidence that every time rarity went up, the map drop chance on tier 17s also went up. Fascinating. You may have also noticed the Mage Bloods row, and that is because a Mage Blood dropped. Do I think item rarity is responsible? Yes, I do. And last, I want to look at this Meticulous Appraiser column. I was wearing 185% item rarity while testing out Meticulous Appraiser. You know, I've already kind of showed that off. And this really shouldn't come as a huge surprise, just to show off Meticulous Appraiser in the Atlas passive tree. It is this node here, this keystone that changes all the quantity mods on your maps to instead apply to rarity at 300% of their value. You can test this, as I unfortunately did, by putting a scoured map in with this setup, where you would normally have 15 item rarity and 15 item quantity. By taking these 12 nodes around the outside, 3 in the middle, that'll give you 15 of each. And if you have Meticulous Appraiser, it'll instead just be 60 rarity. Kind of not really all that surprising here is that it was actually worse than running no item rarity at all. Even with 185 item rarity, I had maps, especially in the 8 mod section, where I had well over 700% rarity, and there's just no quantity at all. And so nothing really drops. There's just nothing dropping at all. There's no gold dropping, there's no items dropping, there's no tier 17s dropping, there's certainly no divines or any sort of uniques dropping. So not really surprising that that is a terrible keystone, but it was kind of useful to go in there and test and see, is it really as terrible as I think? Absolutely, it might even be worse. It was interesting that at the scour and go level, it actually did result in more gold. I think this is just ultimately a bit of noise caused by like alter quant and rarity bonuses, but you know, it is what it is. Ultimately, it clearly is very bad. It definitely should not be used. All right, so now let's talk about how to get rarity, because I think a minimum of 75% is really desirable. You know, you could continue to go higher. I probably will. I don't think 185% is close to the limit. I could absolutely see it pushing up into the 200s. Maybe at that point, the diminishing returns would really kick in a big bad way, but we just don't know for certain at this point in the game. So the easiest way to get rarity is literally just to get it either on your prefix or suffix of ring, amulet, gloves, boots, and helm. It is available on all of those slots, and again, as both a prefix or a suffix, which is surprising but useful. It really does make it easy to slot into gear. Because it's available as a ring prefix, and ring prefixes are usually pretty garbage for most builds, I think fitting a bit of rarity in there on one or both rings is really, really easy to do. You know, as I said, I have this ring here that has double T1 rarity prefix and suffix, I should say, and this was fairly expensive. I think this was like 5 divines, but even just this ring, just a normal ring with some stats and resistances, life, and then room to craft a non-channeling skills have minus mana cost. This has a rarity prefix on it. Very easy. I mean, what alternative would I have? Adds 4 physical damage? I wouldn't even notice. I would rather have the rarity, to be honest. Now, there's also the possibility you can wear a gold flask, or that you can use the crafted flask suffix that grants rarity, as I have that on both. Well, I have a gold flask, but also I have this, and I've been wearing a gold flask with a crafted rarity suffix for a while, long before I had the Mage Blood. And if you don't have that craft, it's really easy to get. You just unveil Cinder Swallow urns until you get it. And if you don't want to run Katarina, you can buy Cinder Swallow urns that are still unveiled, or haven't been unveiled, I should say. And the easy way to search for those is just simply to type of the veil into the stat filters on a Cinder Swallow urn. And then there you go. There are tons and tons and tons of these available for 10 chaos each, and I mean, there are literally over 1,000 of them available, so if you're playing in Trade League, it should be very easy to get your hands on one of these at this point. And then finally, there's Item Rarity Support, which is a support gem that grants a very nice 69% increased item rarity when at level 20 with 20 quality. It is better for it to be a 20/20 gem than a 21/0 gem. That would only give you 60% rarity as opposed to 69. It is a blue socket gem, which does mean that it requires some int. I believe the int requirement at level 20 is 111, a little bit high. My character is a bit too stupid for that, and that is, I think, the main reason that I haven't switched to it while doing all of my farming. I might try and force a white socket onto my axe through the harvest bench. That's really not too expensive to do, and then try to get, like, I don't know, 50 more int, 40 more int, and be able to fit this in just to get a, like, basically to go from, what am I at, 185 plus 69 would put me at 254 item rarity. That would be pretty cool. That would add a lot of extra juice, and for most content, you know, I don't really know that I need the likes of pulverized support or, you know, pretty much any of these support gems, but I guess pulverized would be the one on the chopping block. The point is, I don't feel like, other than maybe doing tier 17 bosses, I really need that 6th gem, so I think this would be pretty justifiable as something to slot into this build, or pretty much any build that is like really up and running, to just get a lot more stuff, get a lot more unique items, but also get a lot more gold. All right, in conclusion, get some rarity on your gear. It's actually that simple, and I think the best place to do it is ring prefixes. Even if it is just a ring prefix here, or a glove prefix there, maybe a flask suffix, or even a full-on gold flask if your build can really handle it, you will really notice a huge uptick in the amount of gold you bring in. But if you really want to bring in the big bucks and have millions of gold sitting in the bank, you have to push that rarity up big time. You got to go big, you got to farm big, juicy maps with lots of monsters in them, and wear as much rarity on your gear as you can manage while doing that. All right, that is it. Thanks for watching. Bye.